speaking of factors, environmental factors, you've had to again shift as we're getting in from the dry, cooler season to now it's getting a little bit more moist, not as much out there, still dry as hell constantly, but hot. So the environmental factors, what are the things that you focus on the most where you live, and how do you keep them consistent without, going crazy with the equipment even?
Temperature and VPD are probably the top two. Yeah, I'm always aiming for, really throughout the entire growth cycle, I'm aiming for between 78 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And I apologize for the folks that are Celsius. You have to do the conversion
America
there.
did this to us.
America
didn't choose this. It wasn't our choice. I can't tell you why. I'm going to tell you how many miles to go also. I'm sorry. It's just, this is who we are.
Yeah. The 78 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I used to run higher than that. I used to be 85 degrees, 87 degrees Fahrenheit, especially when LEDs first came on the market and people were saying, hey, you need to run a higher temp because you don't have that heat like you do with HID lighting. And so I was running 85 degrees, 87 degrees for many, many cycles because that's what I was told. And now what I found was a lot of heat stress issues in the plants. It was a little bit too high.
What's happening?
Morphology issues too, like foxtailing would happen. And it wouldn't be every cultivar. It would be genetic dependent, like you kind of talked about a little bit earlier. It's like some genetics would be able to take that higher heat. Others would freak out and start foxtailing. You see morphology issues from it. So ever since backing down, I was slowly backing down over the years, and then I really landed at that 82 degrees Fahrenheit because that's the temperature I found that most genetics aren't freaking out over. It was pretty stable. Now, once in a great while, I'll get something that's still struggling at that 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which like the Freak Show from Humboldt, they distributed that one. That one couldn't handle 82 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a memorable one. That one was kind of a nightmare to grow a little bit, I guess. It wasn't as a good result from that one as I anticipated, but still kind of cool to grow and see how that thing looks. But yeah, temperature really, and then towards the end of flowering, lowering that temp between 75 and 78 degrees, roughly, to try to conserve some of those terpenes. Now, for me, living in this place with the dedicated thermostat here, I actually was able to crank it down to like 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Lights on temp is what I'm talking about. And now that, I kind of feel like it was a little bit too low. I would like it to be a little bit more, that 75 to 78 degrees. I just feel like it kind of slowed down the plant a little bit. Anecdotally saying this, of course. but yeah, 75 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit for the temperature. As far as lights off, I used to think having massive drops in lights off were like detrimental to the plant. But now if you have like a 20 degree swing, I was always told like, hey, if you have that much of a swing, you could get hermaphrodites to come out. I don't know if I believe that anymore, especially since a lot of these genetics are grown outdoors and you have those drastic 20 degree swings, sometimes more, and the plants are fine. Really, I'm doing a 10 or 15 degree swing for the most part. If I'm getting close to harvest, if I can drop it even more, if I can drop it to the low 60s degrees Fahrenheit, well, then some of those colors will come out, and I really do try to bring those out sometimes. Really only happens to me in the wintertime when it's naturally cold outside. It can be more cold inside. And then for VPD, I aim for 0.8 to 1.0 kPa in seedlings and veg, and then 1.2 to 1.5 or 1.6 kPa in flower. Now, the higher the number, the more kind of drier it is. I like to be more on the 1.5, 1.6 kPa. It's a little bit more drier because I've come across bud rot in flowering, and I don't like it. And the plants grow really good at 1.5, 1.6. I don't worry about CO2 at all. We're talking about environment. I want to bring CO2 in there. I've tried the canisters. Hate that company. I don't even want to say the name of the company.
They steal
Don't
all of our
support
content,
them.
and they put it on their channel and don't link us to it.
They're terrible people in real life.
They smell funny. No, okay, I don't know.
But keeping but they have bad breath.
Yeah, their teeth always got food in it. I don't know what it is.
But I tried those canisters. Up and down results on those. Mushroom bags, up and down results on those. Tanks, of course, those work, but me being a small home grower, I don't really need that. I get enough yield without supplementing CO2, so I don't worry about CO2 anymore. Air circulation and air exchange are things that are often forgotten about when we talk about environment, right? air circulation has become more and more important to me over recent years, especially after getting bud rot. I used to run just one oscillating fan in my grow tent, and unfortunately, one time it died, and I got bud rot. So now I'm always running 2 oscillating fans per grow tent at the minimum. So that way, if one dies, well, the other one's still going, and there's less chances of that bud rot from occurring. And then air exchange. This is something that, again, we don't talk about enough. The old school way was, oh, you want to have air exchange every 1 to 5 minutes. Have air exchange. Now, that was kind of a blanket, broad way of going about it, right? We talk about it in the seedling stage. We talk about it in the flower stage. There's certainly kind of a difference there when it comes to air circulation. But I have my controllers set so when the temperature reaches that 82 degrees, it'll kick on. The exhaust will kick on. So when my lights turn on, the grow lights are heating up that environment. Well, heats it up to 82. Then it'll kick it on, or 83. It was going to reach 83 for it to kick on to go back to 82, right? It'll kick on. And so I'm constantly getting air exchange that way. And then when the lights turn off, what usually happens then? The humidity usually spikes up, right? Especially when you've got larger plants. Plants transpire. They release water vapor into the air. It increases the humidity in that grow space. And my controller's set that once it reaches a certain RH, or I actually have it as VPD as well. You can do a VPD setting. Once it reaches a certain VPD, it'll kick on and start exhausting some of that hot air. And then the air coming into the grow space, I'm in a very dry climate. I'm 30%, 35%. And then in wintertime, it's in the teens. So it's very easy for me to be able to control humidity on that avenue. But yeah, air exchange, air circulation, 2 other important things when it comes to environment, which I don't think are talked about enough.
Yeah, no, 100%. Especially depending on where you're at, the crucial aspect of controlling every area of the air. Temperature, the heat being crazy, low humidity. These are things that you can't just set it and forget it in your garden. You have to really put in work. And then if you think you're just going to stack in more plants, plants transpire, just like you're saying, you can't control that 100%. You can hope that it's going to be at a certain number, but well, guess what? There's your bud rot, there's your powdery mildew. This is when you ruin all of your crop. So, yeah, man, I think that's wise in terms of how you're doing things now. It's already, you were doing more labor to make it happen then. You had the controllers and stuff, but there's just more stuff to make it happen, to now make it efficient in a separate room that's dialed in just for the grow. I mean, you literally built it to specs. So you got an upper hand more than ever. You're able to kind of rough it.
It's awesome,
and then
man.
figure it out.
Yeah, but she's warped back 10 years ago, man. You have the variable speed controller on the inline fan, and you had to dial that in because if you put it too high, you're sucking out too much air, and there goes all your heat and humidity. And then if it's too low, well, then you got humidity spikes and heat spikes. So, gosh, it's so much easier nowadays with this automation, the controllers, and everything connecting to the controllers and automatically turning on and off due to set points, man. We're lucky these days. This clip is brought to you by Stash Nutrients. Use coupon code THESTASH for a discount on your order.